Cool. Well, I'll talk a little bit about generosity, but mostly what underlies it and what feeds it, and why I apply pay what you want pricing and things like that, these kind of unconventional pricing structures to what I do. So it helps for context. So when I talk about generosity, I mean generosity in business, that maybe there's a better way to do business than um, currently we're doing it, or that is the standard, the status quo, at least the broad-based status quo that people look at and see corporations and they see how they're run, and they think it's this very scarcity-minded, uh, competitive environment. And of course, the smaller you go, the less that has to be the case. That you get down to the small business level and you realize that it doesn't have to be such a competitive Hunger Games style competition. That it really can be something that we can actually be very generous with, and we can support, entrepreneurs can support each other, and that at the local small business level, local small businesses can support one another. And so stemming from that, of course, is then these pricing techniques like pay what you want pricing or gift-based economics, where we give freely, and we give, not necessarily give for free, but we give freely, that we are generous, and we do not put bounds on that. And the reason I say that is when I started using pay what you want pricing, it's essentially letting people choose their price. They have they don't have to pay a certain amount, a certain fixed price. And there's a lot of ways to apply that, but in general, that's what it is. And so when I first released some stuff using that pricing technique and put it out at $0 plus, people could take it for free or they can contribute. And sure enough, 50% of people contributed. And I think, and that's just one example. There's literally hundreds of others that I've researched and documented for my book, The Complete Guide to Pay What You Want Pricing. But I suppose what's interesting about this is that most business organizations, most analysts, most economists, excuse me, anybody doing, working in this world will probably look at that and say, well, that's an anomaly, or that can't work on a big scale. And so that's what I challenge. And I say that one, it doesn't have to work at the big scale for working on a small scale, but I think it can work at the big scale too. It just takes a lot of overcoming the status quo of where we're at right now. The second thing is that a lot of people will look at it and dismiss it and say that only works because it's an anomaly, or no, that really wouldn't work on other cases. And they don't, because they don't have any evidence to back it up. And so my second challenge is this. There is evidence, but not enough for them. And so my second challenge to this is just to people that look at things that way. And they say, oh, that could never work. And I challenge the idea of rationality versus empiricism. Okay? That's a way of saying that when we talk about rationality, we're talking about what's the causation of something, what's the step-by-step thing that led to where we're at. And that's a lot of like what these people who deny this would say. They would say that, well, there's not enough, there haven't been enough experiments or tests done on it. So we can't prove that the generosity works, that there's something consistent here that we can actually apply in our business. The empiricist would say, I've tried it and it works, so I'm going to keep using it. And I don't need to know exactly why it works, but that it does. And so that's my my thought on that. That I think too many people get caught in this rationality trap. They try to figure out why things work, and then they get into this little bubble of like, if it hasn't been documented in some sort of experiment, triple blind study, then they can't prove it. But the reality is you can prove things with empiricism. That's where you experience life, and that's how you prove things in life, is through your own experience. And so I challenge, one, people to be more generous and to test it out. But two, to have that mindset of to be to be empirically minded, and to be willing to experiment, to fail, and then to learn from that. And if it succeeds, then keep doing it. So that's kind of how I run my business, and that's how I do everything that I do. I want to experience it firsthand to make sure it works. I don't need to have a good reason why it works. At the end of the day, everything I say about generosity and pay what you want, generally it could be right, but it also could be wrong. And the point is, it'll still work. And so, bam, that's what I got on that.